Okay. Just make sure this is going live. Give me one sec, everybody. Make sure that we're doing this right. It's been a minute since we've done this. And so, yeah. Oh my gosh, look at this. It's like we've never missed. In fact, I think we've missed probably about 3 weeks of this now. So I'm going to edit on here for you guys to jump on if you'd like to jump on and possibly be a guest if you have something you'd like to talk about. Let's see. I see it here on mobile. Let me do this. Just bear with me for one moment. Okay. It's been about 3 weeks, I think, since we've had the one-on-one live with Coach Blu, and I had a little bit of time, and I wanted to just update you a little bit, to share with you a little bit about what's going on, maybe talk to you a little bit about how maybe the future is going to be so different with what we're doing with Addict to Athlete because of our grants and the facility that we have. And if you'd like to be a guest on here, shoot, jump on. I'll do my best to get you on here. Now, I'm not sure about the internet stability. That's going to probably be the biggest thing. The reason being is because I'm down here in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm going to go help out and film and do some stuff with Brock Bevel and Max Hall tomorrow as they do the Connection is a Cure concert and speaking engagement. There are still tickets available if you are down in the Phoenix area. So Phoenix, Chandler, Mesa. It is, when I landed today, it went from 110 to 111, 12, 13, 14, 15. It peaked at like 115 today. I know the bad water is going on right now, and I'm thinking, good grief, man, I don't know how people can get out and run in this. I love the heat. I do. But, man, it has been brutal today. But athletes, so down here, I wanted to just jump on real quick and touch base because it's been a while since we've done this. Talk a little bit about some of the questions that have been coming our way. One-on-one live with Coach Blu is your opportunity to jump on and talk about anything that may be maybe bothering you, stuff you've been thinking about, things that pertain to addiction recovery, all that fun stuff. So that being said, if you want to jump on and either shoot a message through Facebook here or through YouTube or through Twitter, we're all kind of linked, go ahead. Or if you feel so inclined, I will do my best to get you in if you want to follow the links that we provided. But to answer some questions, Coach Blu, where's the podcast? The studio is being torn down in my home and then being rebuilt over in the new facility. We've got new equipment. We've got some neat things happening that we'll have our own studio. So the podcast has been on a little bit of a hiatus. I'm going to be posting this to the podcast page, but there's a few other ones. You can go listen to Agents of Recovery that we do, and you can listen to The Party in the Back with me and Josh Hansen. And we've got some great guests already lined up for when the studio goes live here in the next couple of weeks. So the podcast is not being turned off. We just had to take a little bit of a break because moving equipment is kind of fragile and kind of hard. I'm excited for you guys to see the new studio, though. It's going to be our YouTube and podcasting room, and it's going to be just this mecca and this like pinpoint of recovery tools, resources, and outlets. And so I'm excited to get that going. By the looks of it, we should be in our new facility. They keep saying like in 2 weeks. Coach Jensen and I were over there last night, and it's still got some work to do. So I'll bet you we're probably not in there for another at least 2 to 3 weeks. And we'll be having a huge open house. We want to invite everyone that's had a part in or been participating with Addict to Athlete over the last 11 years to come be part of our grand opening and our open house. We're hoping to get some of the people that have really helped Addict to Athlete establish itself. And so if you've had a hand in Addict to Athlete over the last 11 years, or if you've participated with us, we want to bring you in and show you our new facility. It's going to be an educational resource hub. We're going to be having groups for all kinds of addiction recovery, give you guys some tools. We'll have some groups for the muggles out there, the family systems. And ours is a lot different. It's funny. I'll be quite honest with you guys. When we got this grant, my whole idea was let's get a gym. But there's a lot of gyms out there. there's a lot of sober gyms out there. And the thing I wanted to do to distinguish addict to athlete from the sober community and sober gyms is that we are no different than anyone else out there. And so I didn't want to typecast ourselves into one paradigm of like, we are only one facility. That's all we are, And so I wanted to make sure that we're not just a sober gym, that we are a addiction and mental health recovery program. That's a majority of it, the bulk of it, 90% of it is free to the community. That other 10% would be if you want anything additional, therapy from Coach Blu here or what have you. That's going to be a whole separate thing. But we're going to do things kind of different. Having been certified and trained in EMDR therapy, I've noticed that that's what made addict to athlete work. Karen, I see that you're in the attendees column. If you want to come on live, give me one of those thumbs up and I'll bring you over. If not, we'll just keep going. But EMDR therapy, what I noticed is when addict to athlete first started, I started running with the athletes. I started getting them trained, and as we're training for this 5K that we talked about numerous times, one of the neatest things was they were starting to tell me about all these feelings they had, all this stuff that they were feeling like, heavy on their hearts. And what I didn't realize is essentially that was EMDR therapy. And so what we're going to do is help you overcome some of the roadblocks you have, some of the emotional mental barriers that you might have through using the same thing that really catalyzed addict to athlete into, I would say, this new method of recovery by working out, by moving. I've kind of been feeling a lot lately, and I've kind of been pushing this little sentence here that movement equals healing. Now, if you're trying to get sober, you can't just plop down on a couch. You can't just plop down on a chair in a circle. You have to be doing something physical, something tangible to help burn some of those I call them those trauma calories that you've established. And when I get out and start running with my athletes and they started processing all these heavy stuff, I'm like, there's something to this. And that was why I was so interested in doing this for our facility. So our facility will actually have 2 gyms. The first gym is a smaller one. It's a more intimate gym. It's going to be some treadmills and some light weights and things that we can do to help promote the movement is healing concept. The bigger gym is going to be just right across at a facility. It's right across from our location. It's literally like maybe 40 to 50 step from one building to the next, with racquetball courts, weight rooms, basketball courts. We'll have the whole 9 down there. But I wanted to make sure that we didn't frustrate what Team Addict to Athlete stands for. And although athlete is in our name, it's kind of a smaller portion to you letting go of the old addict and adopting that new philosophy of you are an addict, but now you are an athlete. And then you can be a father and a brother and a scholar and an employee. And you can be all these other things. You don't have to just be an addict. Now, 11 years ago when we started this, it was hilarious because people were so up in arms. You're doing it wrong. You're going to hurt these people. They have to remain anonymous. They've got to be quiet with it. That just never sat well with me. I never felt as though that was the path I wanted to take. And so therefore, I didn't allow them to call themselves that. Now, you can if you want. I'm not going to sit here and say you can't. But you're more than that. You're more than an addict. And it's a hard one to wrap your head around when you've been indoctrinated and told and forced into kind of submitting to the fact that once an addict, always an addict. Listeners, that's not true. It never will be true. And so I think the biggest portion of what we're going to do there is help move you as a coach would from point A, which is an addiction, to point B, C, D, E, F, all the way down until you begin to feel the measure of healing addiction. Now, that's a scary word, and I'm going to start throwing it out there a lot more because it's a philosophy I've had for the last 11 years, is that you can heal from this. The problem is if we start using those kind of terms is that then we start looking at destinations. We start looking at ends and results. But everyone's always indoctrinated that there's a scary part in the middle, and that part in the middle could hold you back from healing. And so you could relapse, you could have all these problems. So we scare you into submission. That's not how it should work. When the right principles are applied, you can heal from this stuff. I'm 100%, I 100% believe it. But if you if you don't allow yourself, I would say that mechanism of hope, of strength, of grit, of perseverance, of going the extra mile, of really putting in the work when you want to throw in the towel, you're probably going to be stuck. But if you lean into it, you guys, I've seen amazing things happen. So long story short, as we build the facility, the essence of it is going to be more motivation, more understanding through educational groups. We'll do some heavier stuff, but we're also going to allow other organizations to come in. We have Addicts Fighting Back who will be taking a spot during the week. We want to bridge some of those relationships, and we'll have the Muggles group. We're looking at really starting and maintaining a stronghold with Addict to Artist, which is a sister program to Addict to Athlete, which in all case in point should be about 50 times bigger than Addict to Athlete. So we'll be doing more of that, and really kind of giving you and the populace that surrounds the home base location a hub where you can come and seek resources. We do a lot already. We'll be doing a ton online. That's what the YouTube and podcasting room is going to be. We are done creating what's called our extracurricular recovery playbook. This is a playbook that you can use anywhere in the world. And with our online tools that we're developing right now, because it's all written out, now we get to put it all into digital media form. You can join this team whether you're sitting in some place in Italy, or if you're in Australia, New Zealand, anywhere you want. You can be part of Team Addict to Athlete by using the extracurricular recovery playbook. And so we're excited to get that out to you guys as well. Again, this whole thing is to show you how much force there is when you get a good team behind you. Because once you have the support, it doesn't matter what continent you're hanging out on. What matters is that you got a team and a teammate that's got your back. We have trained about, I think, almost a dozen more certified Addict to Athlete recovery coaches and sober coaches. And that's a funny thing too, because again, people get up in arms. You can't use the word recovery. You can't use the word sobriety. Don't do that. I remember there was I can't remember how long ago, but there was some shenanigans going down because someone sponsor wouldn't let someone take the recovery coach training because it had the word sober in it. And I'm like, if you are being that freaking petty in the language that you use when it comes to helping people, you really have to rearrange your priorities. Either you're sober or you're in recovery, or let's say again, you're healing. It doesn't matter as long as you're on the pursuit of making a life better than what it was yesterday. So you'll hear the interversible changing between the recovery coach and sober coach, but what it becomes ultimately is an Addict to Athlete certified coach, where you can start a chapter of Addict to Athlete in your community. We are in June. We had an amazing June, you guys. June was awesome. We had our very first No One Left Behind half marathon, which was incredible. And we had a lot of boo-hooers out there saying, oh, you picked a date that all these other things are going on. Who cares? It was fun. The people that needed to be there were there, and it was epic. And it was awesome. And we've already got the date planned out for next year. And so keep an eye on the webpage. In fact, registration's open. It's in June of next year. So go check it out. We had our race, and we were able to get all of our finish lines and all of our canopies up and really look legit, which was kind of nice. And it felt good. It felt strong. And we also opened up a chapter of Addict to Athlete in Richfield, Utah. And that was a beautiful experience, going down there and mingling with the people of Richfield and sharing the message of erase and replace and turning the message to the message. And now we have a chapter down there. And we're exponentially growing. We have, like I said, a bunch of new sober coaches that have been taking the classes and finishing, and we're getting bigger and bigger. And that's the goal, is to just get people to understand that you don't need to spend thousands and millions of dollars on your recovery. That if you are serious and you want to be held accountable, all you need to do is show up, and we'll help put you in a position to where that can happen. But we've had some heartbreak too. We've lost some athletes and we've gained some athletes, and it's just the way that it goes. But the overall pulse of the team is strong. And, I'm eager to get into our new facility just because I want a place to land. But we also want it to be perfect for you guys. You've held in there long enough. A couple more weeks isn't going to be too traumatic. I think we'll be able to get you guys in there. But there's gonna be some fun stuff. I'm excited to really open up this new door. So that was a big tangent. Long story short, No, we are still doing the podcast. We just had to take down the podcasting equipment in one location to move it to another. And we haven't been able to put the new podcasting studio up because they're doing some painting and some carpet laying and all kinds of fun stuff. But it'll be there soon. But in the meantime, please check out the Agents of Recovery, which is, again, why I'm down here in Arizona right now. And it is wicked hot, even in this hotel room. It is wicked hot. And the party in the back with Josh. So, yeah. Donnell. I know Donnell's always down to jump on. Let's bring Donnell on. We will move her over to, I think, a panelist. Donnell, if I hang up on you, I apologize. But let's see what we can do here. Okay. If I really did this myself, Donnell, I'm going to be proud of myself. You're on mute, but I think we're one step closer. I think we've done it. Are you there?
I am.
Hey, oh my gosh, look at this. I'm at the helm all by myself. I haven't hung up on anybody yet. There you are. Donnell, how you doing out there in Elko, Nevada?
Not too bad. Hanging in there. It's hot here too.
Are you at 115 like I am?
No.
Oh my gosh. I had to shut these because it was so blazing hot. I'm like, this is nuts. I'm surprised these places don't catch on fire.
Where are you at in Arizona?
Phoenix, Arizona, right? I mean, I got Arizona State University right next to us.
Wow,
yeah,
nice.
Right in the thick of things. And it's funny because I'm driving around. I'm like, why is there nobody out? Like everywhere else, people are walking around. And I got out of my car. I'm like, oh, that's why. It's like so bloody hot. So yeah, it's kind of funny. Yeah.
You're kind of close to where Maddie is. I'm not too bad. We just finished Art in the Park.
That's right. How did it go? Art in the Park. Share with the listeners a little bit about what that is, because there's a lot of people out there that have no clue what it even is.
So Art in the Park is an event that Elko puts on every year. The Elko County Art Gallery puts it on. And it's just vendors from all over the place. But with COVID, it's been hard to, keep it going every year. And this year they had to add 22 new booths, I think, and they still had a waiting list. So,
wow.
Yeah, it was pretty big this year. But, with Addict to Artist, we do the overnight security for them every year. It's a service project every year. And no matter what Addict to Artist has going on, and no matter what, where we're at, we always do that service event for them. So
yeah, I think it's good. I remember when we went down there when we first started introducing the program to the people out there, and it was amazing to see the response. They're like, what is this, and how you guys have grown, and you've been kind of a stronghold. And yeah, COVID wrecked a lot of that kind of stuff because we couldn't meet and stuff. But you feel like you're getting your legs back under you? Do you feel like it's starting to regain some traction?
I do. I think we're gonna, Terry's mom just passed away, so that kind of put a little bit of a stop to things. But once things kind of calm down, we're gonna kind of get back into the helm of things, and we kind of want to go more video, with it, just so that we can reach more people. We're in a very small community here, and so I feel like Addict to Artist in and of itself is too large for our community, so to speak, because there's just not a lot of room to grow if we just keep our legs here in Elko. And so we've got to kind of find a way to reach out a little bit more.
Yeah, it is. It's funny. And that's the one thing I think that I've noticed with the pandemic and stuff. There are some things that are here to stay. Zoom, right? People have had a hard time with Zoom, and it's kind of funny. I think Zoom kind of gets a bad rap to a certain degree. And I think it's because you can get some really dry personalities on the other ends of these cameras that are just like, please, like, let me slam my head against this computer screen. But when you have someone that's engaged and you have some kind of content that's appealing, Zoom works great. That's why we're doing all of our extracurricular recovery stuff online now. It's because we've had a lot of people that have wanted to know more about what the philosophies are. And it's hard to duplicate yourself and to put yourself out there. So this will be the best way, and then you can kind of create what you want. So I think it's a great idea. I think multimedia approaches like the videos, the podcast, all that kind of stuff will be great if that's something you guys want to do. I think that's a good idea. You'll reach a heck of a lot more people.
Yeah, that's kind of where we're kind of thinking of going with things. But we always, I mean, with having the art gallery and the Elko County Art Club, they've always been behind us 100%. So, we still have our space there, for when we want to hold events and gatherings and meetings and stuff like that. So we'll get back there. We just kind of needed to take a break. The COVID kind of hit our community pretty good. And so, yeah, we're just kind of.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of a nerve-wracking thing too. I don't listen to the news all that much, but it doesn't take a genius to know that there'll be some turbulence on the horizon. I mean, with the economy and all kinds of other stuff, and political. We're not even going to go there because I think all that stuff is garbage. But we got to find out ways to weather the storm that's coming, because if that COVID was hard, this next little economic little push is going to be stressful too. We'll make it work. That's why I think resources like what you'll provide and what we've got out here are going to be, I think, crucial for the next couple of years as we have to cut back in some areas, and how we can increase in others. So, it doesn't take a lot of money to create art. You can do it with the stuff laying around. And the same thing with recreation, right? Just go. So, I think that there's a lot of things out there, and now's the time to prepare for it. So we'll weather it together. We'll get through it.
Yeah, we will. I think that like the biggest issue that we've been kind of running into out here is isolation. And, so it, you have people that are still concerned about spending too much time around other people. We kind of go.
You still find that people are hesitant to get involved. Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And we kind of, our community we kind of go through spurts where we'll, have very few COVID cases, and then we'll have like a little bit of an outbreak. So COVID is definitely still pretty prevalent in our community, but the isolation just takes a toll on people.
Danielle, give me your real thought on that, because I've had my own thoughts on this too. And we can blame it on the virus too, but I think people fell out of sync, and we've almost forgotten how to talk and how to be involved. And it's a sad, scary thing. I've noticed this with youth. I've noticed this with adults. You start seeing more and more people go to the self-checkout lines than with the clerks, right? And I see these things, more people are door dashing. They're not going out to get their food. More people are getting their groceries, and then Walmart, wheels them out to them and they load them for them. I'm like, in progression where we can do things that I guess will be less involved, we're going to be missing out a lot. And I'm noticing that there's this big, huge emotional pull away. You are eloquently seeing that too. What do you think? What do we do? Because we are social creatures. We're not supposed to be alone. You know this, right?
Right.
What do you think?
And I think that with the initial shutdown, it gave people an excuse to just, not have to leave their homes and their comfort zones. And it just becomes so easy to not challenge ourselves and kind of step out of our boxes. It's so much easier just to say, I don't want to go out in public today, so I'll Instacart or, whatever.
Have you ever done that? Have you ever Instacarted? I've never done that. Have you done it?
I Instacart all the time.
Do you? So wait a minute, are you one of those people that don't want to associate with people? Is that what we're doing?
Well, I mean, truly, when you get into, it's a funny thing about isolation and mental and emotional illness, because it happens so quickly with, you're kind of going along with your life and you're moving along. And I've been retired for a long time. I'm lucky that, my husband's able to, go out and work and stuff. And so it happens so quickly where you just pull back, and then you just kind of get that short-term goal oriented where you're like, not today, maybe tomorrow, but not today. Yeah. And then tomorrow turns into the next day, and it turns into the next day. And it really does take a toll, but there becomes a point where you have to be responsible for your own, emotional happiness, and you have to be responsible for your own emotional well-being. And if that means you have to step out of your box and go out and do something that you don't want to do, that's kind of that's the only way you're going to get back into that groove. But I do think that it's caused people to given them an excuse to just kind of be lazy and just stay at home in their pajama pants every day. And you don't
Yeah.
realize how much emotionally it's taken a toll until it's like you're just in your sludge and you're like, what am I going to do now? And at that point,
Yeah.
you just have to kind of, get up, wash yourself off, and go do something that's a little bit uncomfortable. And usually you get out there. And so Art in the Park was sort of that for me because I've been just and I live a little bit out away from town anyway, so it's real easy to say, oh no, I don't want to go all the way into town to do this or buy groceries or whatever.
Yep.
And or even just call Michael and say, hey, can you bring something home instead of going in and getting it myself. But then
Yeah.
getting out there this weekend with Art in the Park and seeing all of my acquaintances and all of the people that I know and that are familiar with Addict to Artist, and that have donated money and just that know it, and they're like, hey, where have you been? We haven't seen you in a long time. And so it felt really good. It was a good weekend to kind of just get out and socialize, and then at the end of it you look back and you just are kind of like, wow, that was really nice. Why don't I do that more often?
Yeah, well, because we fall on a sync, like you said. It takes effort. I'll be quite honest. I've noticed that some people have, this might sound silly and stupid, but some people have forgotten how. I've noticed that like self-awareness has completely gone out of whack. Like self-awareness has gotten really kind of weird. And I've noticed this is with the flow of things, like people pushing around carts, like they forget there used to be a rhythm. And so you could be, I see people bumbling into people like I never did before, driving on the road. I mean, it's kind of a funny thing, but I think residually this like the aftermath, I'm not sure how long it's going to take. And then if we have this economic issue pop up, it's going to be even worse because then we're going to start seeing a bunch of people who are now, we're using before because of the isolation, now because there's this doubt and this worry and this concern. So we are by no means out of the woods yet, but I think with you guys doing some things back to normal, like Art in the Park, that's a big deal. And I like to tease you a little bit because I'm with you too, Donnell. There's times when I'm like, I kind of want to just hide. Like this is the first time I've been, and I don't want to call this a vacation, but I'm, Marissa's up at trotting around the mountains with the young women in our neighborhood, and I'm here by myself, and I'm like, it's weird to travel by yourself. I don't care if it's business or what, but I'm like, I see something cool, and I'm like, hey, oh yeah, it's like going to the
Yeah,
Grand Canyon by yourself. We flew over the Grand Canyon on the way down here, and I'm like, hey, oh, it just
yeah,
it sucks. It sucks. And so I'm down here, and I'm like, I think I kind of want to just get on the plane and go home, but I've made
yeah.
commitments, and so I'm with you on that. But if we do that repetitively and we fall on a sync, it gets harder to get back involved.
Hmm.
So I'm with you 100%. So I'm glad that you're doing some of that kind of stuff. And you bring up a great point, listeners. When I was talking about isolation, and if you found yourself for the last couple of years doing that, maybe it's time for you to really lean into some of the programs like Addict to Athlete, Addict to Artist to start. It is what makes this whole thing tick, Donnell. Yesterday at our meeting up in Utah County, they were talking about that. I'm like, you guys, it's this team. And it's the only thing that made this survive is each of you on this team. Has nothing to do with the wisdom we kick, nothing to do with the races we run. It's about the relationships here. So I'm with you on that. So good on you. I'm glad that you guys are getting your legs back under you, doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is that I think that overall, like I don't think that COVID, just even that that 2 years or whatever, and the aftermath of it, I don't even think that we'll know all of the ins and outs of how it affected us for
It won't.
a long time.
You're
And
right.
like you said, some things are just here to stay with it. But I mean,
Well,
the
yeah.
thing with Addict to Artist and with art in general, you have art is such a good medium for any kind of emotional, whether it's addiction or whatever.
Yep.
And as you know, addict to artist, we've always kind of been, you know, when we introduce ourselves as a support group for people in recovery from addiction, mental and emotional illness, PTSD, you know, things like that, because it's all the same. And like when you were saying before about, you know, about the difference between a recovery coach and a sober coach, and it really, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't matter as long as you're
Same
making,
thing.
you know, your life better today than it was yesterday. Because it's really hard, because if you, especially with the term addict to artist, people instantly assume it's for somebody who is in active addiction. And it's so important to let people know that, you know, addict to athlete and addict to artist both, you know, they're groups for people. And, you know, there's a muggle program, meaning that, you know, those people that they don't have addiction, but they've been affected by it in some way.
Yeah.
And so it's important to know that everybody's story has value, not just, you know, what makes the group amazing as a whole is the input of all the individuals that come in and participate. And that
Yep.
includes people who are mentally and emotionally healthy, and people that are not maybe as healthy, people that are in addiction, people who aren't in addiction, who have, you know, I mean, I've always said like that for, you know, if you want to be successful, you mimic somebody who's been successful. And so, you know, the people that have been able to navigate their lives and the trauma that innately comes with living, because everybody has
Yep.
trauma, and that have been able to successfully navigate that without having to, rely on an addiction or something like that.
Yeah.
Those people have great value in a recovery group as well. So, you know,
You're spot on.
it's really important to
You're
kind of,
right. And that's the thing I've
you know,
noticed a lot lately. Probably within the last year or so, I've noticed significant trauma in people's lives. And from just my own neighborhood where we've lost people to the COVID virus. We lost a couple of athletes that have, had ties with the athletes, but are on addicts fighting back. We lost two very overall healthy guys, and that kind of scared us all because we're like, wait a minute, I thought you said it was just old people that were dying. These two were in the prime of their life, and it was some scary stuff. But then we've had like shootings in our neighborhood, and we've had, I don't know how many people have come to me and said, hey, I've got a loved one or a family member that's struggling with health and tumors. And I'm like, holy crap. In fact, I just had one of my dear friends, sisters pass away just the other day. When I was working at Mountain Peak, I had a friend, his name was Derek, and he passed away. He had an issue with some drinking, and it ended up that he had gotten himself in an accident. And he ultimately paid the price and passed away a couple of days after he had this accident. Well, then his sister just passed away in a car accident. And I'm like, there's so much trauma right now going on. My sweet little Savannah trying to wrap her head around losing one of her best friends, who she knew, the kid that harmed her, the one that shot her and then shot himself. She knew him and her. And I'm like, Donnell, how do we wrap our heads around? I mean, you look at these school shootings and all this stuff, and it's very common, unfortunately, but it's like, it just seems like so much. And I'm like, we in addiction recovery should be the ones that could say, despite all the negative influx and all the trauma, we're stronger than we think we are. We can push through this, but we need to do it together. But I'm noticing that more than I'm even noticing the isolation is that people, they're dealing with some heavy, heavy stuff. I mean, it's sad. It's a sad thing. I see it in my therapy. I see a lot of families right now. I see a lot of marriage family therapy going on because one spouse is dealing with some heavy stuff. The other one doesn't know what to do. And so they just don't say anything. So then that spouse feels like they're alone. I mean, like, we've got to start bridging these gaps and start communicating again and start healing together. Don't you think?
I do. I think that the absolutely the one absolute here is that bad things are going to happen.
Yeah.
No matter who you are, no matter what social, group you come from, no matter what. Nobody is immune from bad things happening. That's just a part of life. And the secret is learning how to navigate those and cope with those in a healthy way.
Yep.
And like you said, we're social creatures. And at the end of the day, I really think the answer is more over than anything else is just staying together
Absolutely.
and utilizing support and just social experiences. I mean,
Well, I've
I
noticed
really
that,
think
and
that's what
I've
it
noticed it. None
is.
of us fight for each other anymore. I've noticed this,
Mhm.
even in the worldly things. I've been listening to a few like podcasts and stuff, and I don't know much about it, but there's this cancel culture that kind of floods through, and there was a gal who was on a talk radio show host. I never really thought about it this way, but she'd been canceled for something that she wrote on her Twitter, and it was something that was more kind of a naive statement than it was something that was going to be litigious or mean. It was just being naive. And she did everything that the Disney Corporation wanted her to do, but they still kicked her off the show that she was on. And it got me thinking about that too. It's like, because the podcasting host, he said, out of everybody in this pool of actors with you, and it was, I guess, I can't remember her name, but she worked in a show called The Mandalorian, which is a Star Wars thing. And she had a big role because she said something that didn't jive with someone that started a snowball, blah, 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 free speech, whatever. But he said this, Donnell, he said, did anybody else, any of your fellow actors come up and say, hey, what they're doing to you is wrong and we're going to stick to the man? And she's like, she had the hardest time. She's like, but eventually she said, no, they didn't, because they're all trying to protect their own, right?
Yeah.
But then the host said this, and it is the way he said it was so eloquent. He said, so they're making a movie about standing up and sticking it to the man and the good versus evil, so to speak. But in real life, when it could really count, they're like,
They
So it's
back
like,
off.
I'm like, wait a second, that is so true.
Yeah.
So whether it's someone fighting an addiction or going through trauma or something, we need to have each other's backs and we can't be afraid. It's the situation we go through right now where we've got this lunatic that's putting addict athlete in his crosshairs because we kicked him off the team for some shenanigans and he didn't like that. So he's made a point to go through every one of my contact lists and everyone's ever followed addict athlete and see how horrible of a people we are and all this crap. And each time he does, he gets shut down. It just gets worse and worse and worse. But it's like, dude, if you would just switch your attention to what you could do for yourself, you could be the most amazing person in the world. Look at all this energy you're putting in for nothing.
Yeah.
And it's like, if we could just shift and have people see their potential by saying, hey, I'm just frustrated, I'm hurt, I'm upset, what you said here hurt me or whatever, and we had a conversation. Can you imagine? Everything would change like that. But instead, we build up these little walls and we try to do it alone and we isolate and we ruminate in it. It makes us more upset. And then we end up doing stupid things.
Well, and the other thing we do too is that, we buy into what society has to say instead of, living what our own truth is. It's so funny that you brought that up because
like you're an addict, right? Like you're an addict. No, I have an addiction. I'm not an addict, but I have an addiction. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or just that, if you are an addict, your chances and your odds of being able to stay in recovery are so small. And it's always, I can't. And it's funny that you said that because I just had a conversation with, she was a longtime addict artist, member for a long time. And she's in a pretty bad way now. She relapsed and she's in a really bad way. And she's now gotten her little boy taken away from her forever. And she's like, how do I find the will to fight at this point? I've lost everything. How do I find the will to fight? And I'm like, you know what, Angie, it's not about like what's happened in the past is in the past. But if you buy into what these judges are telling you and what the foster care people are telling you and all of this stuff, if you buy into that and you don't stop and think, because I told her, I said, look at all the mountains that you've climbed and you're still walking today.
Heck yeah.
How much strength does that take? How much will does that take? Imagine if you got your head clear and you use those resources the same resources that you call upon every day when you wake up, and you know that you need to get a bottle of alcohol, or you need to get, you know, a rig of meth or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, you're going to be drunk, you know, and you've said it before too. What are you at the end of the end of the day? You're high or you're drunk.
You got it. You got
I mean, you know, if you woke up the next day and you said, you know, I need to get a job, and you use those resources, at the end of the day, you know, you'd have a job. Like it just is. I think that I see it a lot, and I even see it in myself, that when, you know, when you experience something in your life that society tells you is bad, like being an addict or whatever, and you put that stigma upon yourself, it's really hard to see yourself in any other way. But if you were to look at like what you have gleaned from those experiences, and how much strength you've built from dealing with all that you've dealt with and experiences, you know, being an addict and stuff, like, dang, like literally, instead of looking at somebody who is overcoming addiction as somebody who's weak, they're beasts, Lou. They're like,
they're forgetting. They're forgetting. They're forgetting the more glorious the struggle, the harder the struggle, the more glorious the triumph. They're forgetting the butterfly circus, right? I mean, that's it. And I love it, because what you're saying is that who puts those labels on us? We can hear them from people, but we have to say, okay, I'm going to take that label of addict, low life, you know, whatever. I'm going to wear that. That to me, that self kind of defeating behavior is so incongruent to what I want for people to like really see in their potential, because that's the most horrible thing you can do to yourself. I'm an addict.
Yeah.
No.
Like all I wanted to do was for her to look back and see all that she has overcome and all that she has experienced, even just in the last, you know, 4 years, let alone.
Then why do you think it's so hard, Donnell? Why do you think it's so hard for people to be honest? Instead of saying, well, it's too hard and I can't do this, and why try? Why can't they be honest and say, I'm hurting right now. I'm scared to death. I sometimes see things as hopeless. How come we don't get honest with ourselves that way, but we'll take all these horrible labels that make us look and feel and become weak, instead of being honest and being like, I'm hurt to the core. I'm scared. I'm, you know, I feel empty. Why do we do that? Why not just be real and say, I'm freaking drowning right now and I'm scared to death and I don't really see a way out of this and I could really use a hand of support? Why do we go to the other route and say, I'm worthless? I'm, you know, I can't do this. I'm, you know, basically what I'm saying is, why do we slide into the victim instead of being the agent?
I think, for one, because being the agent requires accountability.
Yep.
And when, you know, if I say, you know, if I relapse or if I slip and I go into a casino and I gamble, it's real easy for me to say I'm a compulsive gambler. That's what I do, rather than taking the accountability for that.
Okay, then I want you to answer this. Because Mitzi brings up a good point. She's posted on Facebook. She says, I think that there's no proof to the contrary. But is there a proof that you are a piece of garbage, that you are a piece of you know, of trash, whatever? No, you don't have proof for that either. But Mitzi, you bring up a really good point, because we're only going to see what our minds are going to like tell us is there, right? And so if we are feeling like a victim, that's all we're going to see. It is a mind shift. You know, I think Mitzi's one of the strongest women we have on this team, but she doesn't recognize it yet because she hasn't heard herself roar yet. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah.
She's starting to roll up her sleeves, and Mitzi, I see you doing it. But when you finally get into position and you roar, that will be your proof. Your proof, Mitzi, should be showing up last night. Your proof should be taking these challenges that you kind of signed up for willy-nilly, like, I'm going to switch jobs and do this. You have proof. But are you looking at it as that, or are you looking at it as, I have to do this, it's a need to do this, instead of, holy piss, look at me, like I'm a badass.
So, and I remember, this is really funny because I feel like I have forgotten this. But, when I went into treatment, when I walked through the doors of Mountain Peak, I genuinely did not see myself as capable.
I remember.
I mean, I wouldn't even entertain the idea of doing something because I just assumed that I would not be successful at it.
Yeah.
And it took one thing, and that was sitting down and painting a picture, painting that clock.
Yep.
And I was like, I know I'm going to suck at it, but I don't have any expectations. So what the heck? Why not?
Yeah.
Right? I don't have anything else to do on a Sunday in treatment. And I started getting feedback from other people. And this is the whole thing of it, Blue, is like, it was that feedback from other people that I thrived on. And that like, I mean, it was like, I would do something and then it become, well, what else can I do? And then I climbed that mountain and I did all of these things. So as soon as I convinced myself that I was capable of doing one thing, I was able to have the courage to move on and go forward and do something else. And when I came out of treatment, I would tell people all the time, like, do something you don't think you can do. That's how you start. That's the stepping stone right there to get you out of something, even if it's just something small. And if you don't complete it, you've still made progress, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that literally is it. And my whole life has been about like buying into society, what they say to me, and prior to recovery and prior to treatment, it was all about buying into that, what society told me I was, and that's 100%. What I believed. And then all of a sudden, man, when I came out of treatment, I was a completely different person. Like I literally looked at it as two separate people. But you're right. When she says there's no evidence to the contrary, create the evidence then. Make the evidence.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
go
just
out
look,
and do
there.
That one thing.
Well, that's the thing too. And the funny part about it is it doesn't take that much movement. And I think I've told you this before about my situation on top of Mount Timpanogos there in Utah Valley. Is one of the tallest mountain peaks we have in Utah Valley. And I mean, everyone's got to hike, Timpanogos. But I remember going up there one time and my cousin was down there in the valley. He was in Heber Valley, which is in the backside of Heber Valley's on the backside of Provo and Orem, where we were, is on the front side, right? But if you are from Heber, you think that's the front, which is kind of weird, but we won't get into that. But I remember my cousin, I call him on the phone. I'm like, dude, go outside and look at the mountain. And he's like, why? And I'm like, because just go out there and look. And he's like, okay. And he's like, I'm busy. I'm like, come on, man. I was like talking to him like, dude, you're gonna do it. He's like, why? What's going on? I'm like, just go out there. And he goes out there. I'm like, and I kind of remembered where he was, right? And I'm like flashing this mirror at him and stuff. I'm like, do you see it? He's like, what? What am I looking for? I'm like, do you see it on the top of the mountain? Do you see it on top of Tim? Do you see it? He's like, no, man, I don't see it. I'm like, where are you? He's like, I'm in Provo, right? So I'm like, oh, so all I had to do is turn around to the other side. I'm like, here, do you see it? And I was like, oh yeah, funny. And he hung up on me, right? So my position from having him from one side of that mountain to the other was simply just turning like a small little degree.
Yeah.
But down there on the bottom, Donnell, that was about 20, 40, 50 miles of distance and circumference, right? And so, like you said, it's those small things that we do, those little corrections that may not look real big in the moment or have huge, huge transformations or experiences. Maybe it is getting up and making your bed in the morning. You've heard that thing. Maybe it is getting up and going running. Maybe it is doing a couple more brush strokes of paint on your painting. Maybe it is doing something so uniquely small, but at the end of that position, look how much distance you've just put between you and your addiction or what have you. So I think you're right. We've got to reframe our mind on how we're approaching this kind of stuff, because anything we do to push through the cravings or the impulses, that to me is like that's what heroes are made of, I think.
Yeah, once you've made the choice to not act on the trigger, then that's the hardest part.
Yep, 100%.
So it doesn't, I mean, if you you get that trigger in your head and you suddenly have a choice. I can either get in my car and I can drive and I can go to the casino, or I can sit down and read a book, or I can sit down and start this painting. Once you've made that choice to not act on the trigger, it's a butterfly effect.
Yeah. I think we got to get away from the instant gratification mindsets too, because it'll come, but your victories will be a little bit smaller before they come really big. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like these victories will be just teeny little increments of like success comparative to like the bigger things. I think we got to be used to that, but that's a whole nother discussion. Look at us, Donnell. What the heck? What was this? Wow.
I know, right?
How about that?
I wasn't expecting it, but it's been nice. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. Me too. I appreciate you being like an impromptu guest without you really even knowing that was going to happen. So good on you.
I would have done something with my hair,
Me too. I would have. Yeah, I would have too. Who thought? Donnell, you're a rock star. Tell that husband of yours I said hi, will you?
I will. We sure miss you guys.
Yeah, we gotta get out there and see each other. Maybe do something. I need you to come out for the open house. That's your open invitation.
There you go. That'll be fun. Yeah.
And we have an extra room.
That'll be like a little reunion, man.
Absolutely. We have an extra room, so it's always available.
Awesome. I love you.
Hey, ciao. See you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. So athletes, listeners, that's thank you all so much for joining tonight. I wanted to give a little bit of something out there because it's been a minute, answer some questions you might have. We will be doing this every Wednesday. Tell me what time works best for you. I like to kind of do it at lunchtime, and that worked for a while. Then sometimes people like it later. Maybe we'll fluctuate, do a few times, so you all can jump on here. I love having your feedback. We'll be doing a lot more, I guess, kind of open topic discussions like this when we get the facility, because we'll have the ease and the access to do it. If you have any questions, jump on addicttoathlete.org. You'll find all of our content on there, from every meeting we have to locations and times and dates they meet. So out there, coaches of Addict to Athlete, send us your updated times, because sometimes you guys make these changes and then people show up and they're like, dude, where's the meeting? Make sure you do that, because we actually do update our website quite frequently. I would be very ungrateful if I didn't tell you all that right now, the September official 5K, Addict to Athlete's official 5K in September on Labor Day, is open for registration. This is the Addict to Athlete proxy run. It is the most emotionally healing experience you'll ever have, because as you're running proxy for someone that may have lost their battle to addiction or suicide, and you put their name on your bib number and you introduce them to the world by not being anonymous, and we get to run proxy with your loved one who may have passed, it is a beautiful experience. You will not regret signing up for this. Sign up as a family, sign up as an individual. And I would love for you guys to put out there who you're running for on your bib. So many times you guys write your names on there and I don't get to meet them. And I say that even though they've passed, because I want you to share with us who that person you've chosen to run, who they are, and not who they were, but who they are. And I know you might have to wrap your head around that, but they're not gone. They're not lost. It's one of the hardest things, I think, when people pass away, they say, "Oh, I'm sorry for your loss." That to me is kind of an insult, because they're not lost. We know where they are. It hurts, but they're still very much a part of us. So the proxy run gives you an opportunity to help share with the people that need to know your loved one, so that they're not forgotten. The proxy run's open for registration. Jump on addicttoathlete.org, follow the registration tab up in the corner. We'll get you going. It's going to be a great run this year. It's going to be bigger than ever now that all the restrictions are done. But it's open. It's September. It's on Labor Day. Now, a lot of you will say, "Oh, Labor Day, we're going to be out of town." That's fine, because it's a virtual option as well. So if you can't run with the team on Labor Day this September in Spanish Fork, Utah, jump on and do the virtual run. You'll have the same experience, probably even more so spiritual. But I want to thank all of you for jumping on, listening. Share this podcast with anyone who might be struggling. Keep the dialogue going. I'm going to be jumping on here and answering some of your questions. So if you have questions in the thread, I'll answer those, or you can shoot them through email, blue@addicttoathlete.org, marissa@addicttoathlete.org. Jump on our social media. A lot of you guys have the phone numbers. If you need to text, please do so. Until next time, athletes, listeners, please